right, this is different. I didn't know exactly what I wanted to say today, but I think the reason they've asked me here is, one, because I have a unique perspective. I went to school for astrophysics, and now I'm a circus performer. I balance a lawnmower on my face for a living, so, you know. The other reason I'm here is because I'm one of those lucky people that gets to do what I love for a living. And I'm super happy about that. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about my story and let you learn from it, whatever it is you think you can learn. Before I go on, I want to clarify a little bit about what it is that I do. I perform a 45-minute comedy fire show with whip cracking, body contortion, juggling, things like this. I travel around the world year-round. Occasionally I get to do cool stuff like be on the David Letterman show, stuff like that. But what I do most of the time is actually do street performing or busking. Now, when most people think of a busker, they think of, you know, some guy playing violin as people walk past, hat out on the ground, and, you know, you can toss something in. That's a lot different from what I do. What I do is called a circle show. I gather a crowd of hundreds of people. I do a 45-minute show. At the end, I pass my hat. A lot of people don't realize how difficult it is to perform in this kind of environment. It's a lot different than doing a stage show. When you're doing a stage show, people come there to see you. They've paid to see you. They're expecting to see a show, and they're expecting to have a good time. When you're on the street, you have to take people out of their daily lives, bring them into the world that you've created with your show. They're on their way from point A to point B, and you have to say, wait a second, point B can wait. Come and join us over here. And it's not easy to do. So just because you can perform on the stage doesn't mean you can be a street performer. That said, when you get good at street performing, it's a wonderful and rewarding thing to do, not just financially, but also in terms of how you can connect with your community. It happens in a way that nothing else can do that for you. So why don't I give you guys an example? Do you want to see what I do? Yeah. All right, check it out. What I'm going to do for you guys is I'm going to fit my body through the head of this tennis racket right here. This is actually the trick I did on the Letterman show. Before we do that, it is very important that I do a little bit of stretching to prepare for the trick. So here we go, a little stretching. What? Oh yeah, good for it. There we go. Thank you. One thing really quickly, let me just do this. I know what you're all thinking. You're thinking, how is it possible that this guy is single? Here we go. First part of the trick, just to get my head through the racket, easy as pie. Okay, there we go. Next part, a little bit harder. As you guys can see, there is not very much room left for the rest of my body. How many of you guys think I can do it? And how many of you think I can't do it? And how many of you just want to see me get stuck? You bastards. All right, here we go. All right. Here we go. This would be easier if it weren't for my enormous pectoral muscles. So, why is that funny? All right. Last but not least, here we go. The most dangerous part of the trick. Now, guys, when I was in high school, I went to a school of the arts. I loved it because it fostered my creativity. I did a visual arts major, but I also played in bands and stuff like that. I loved it so much, I actually spent 6 years there. We had OAC back then, plus I did a victory lap because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I figured an extra year would give me a little time to decide. I still had no idea at the end of that year. So when I was in high school, I was about 18, I think. My friend Janet taught me how to juggle. And she just taught me the basic 3-ball pattern at the time. And it was something I had tried to do before and failed, so the fact that I did it and succeeded, that was pretty cool. And I felt pretty good about that. Janet was a beginner juggler as well, but she knew people that were really enthusiastic, part of this worldwide community of people that are united by their love of throwing things in the air and catching them again. Some people are super into this stuff. And I had no idea this existed, but she told me a little bit about it. It sounded like fun. So we decided a few weeks later that we would take a trip down to the International Jugglers Convention, which happens in a different city every year. This year it was outside of Pittsburgh. I had no idea what to expect, but I thought, hey, it's got to be fun. And we went down there. I walked into a gymnasium, probably 20 times the size of this room, seeing hundreds of the world's best jugglers doing amazing things I had never seen before, things I didn't even know were possible. And during this weekend, we attended workshops, we went to shows, we met a ton of amazing people, and in the nighttime, we would go out into the parking lot, and everyone would play with fire. I couldn't juggle fire yet at that point, but I would go out and just watch people and have fun. Eventually, actually, somebody taught me how to eat fire, and I just thought that was so super cool. So I was really inspired by this event, and I bought a bunch of juggling equipment, and I brought it home with me, and I started practicing, and I started learning how to do the things I had seen done there that day. When I got back to high school after the summer, I started picking up chairs in my cafeteria and balancing them on my face, and I just did this every lunchtime. People thought it was weird for a while, but then they were like, oh, that chair guy, he's, you know. Yeah, so that was fun, and you know, by the time I graduated, juggling wasn't in my mind as a career path or anything like that. When I graduated, the only thing I really knew that I wanted was I knew I wanted to live downtown, and I wanted to move into Toronto and live with my friends and be where all the action is. So I had been accepted to the astrophysics program at U of T, and I decided, what the hell? I'm interested in this subject, and it may not lead to a future career, but I'm going to do it anyways. At least I'll be downtown and having fun and having life experiences. So, you know, I went to school. While I was at school, I started going to the Toronto Jugglers Club, and I started meeting some professionals. And that was a cool experience. After I finished my first year of university, I knew that I had to make money, but I really, really didn't want to get a job, or a real job, as you know what I mean. I didn't want to work in McDonald's. I figured that I was a creative person and that I could find a creative way to make money. And I knew these professional performers, so I figured, you know what, these guys can do it. Maybe I can do it. I'm going to go out and I'm going to give that a shot and see how that works for me. Now, I had no stage experience, no performing experience whatsoever at this point. So when I went out and did my first show, I was bad. I was passing my hat doing street shows, busking. When I did my first show, I think I made 50 cents. It was definitely pity money from an old lady. After that, you know, I was pretty disappointed. I was pretty embarrassed by what happened. But I said, what the hell, I'll go out and do it again. The second time, you know what, I made $8. A lot better. Then I made $20, and it just got better from there. And by the time I finished my first summer performing, I actually managed to land a gig. And I was flown to the Yukon, and I got to go to the Yukon and meet a bunch of other amazing performers, travel across country, and do these shows and get paid. It was my first time being immersed in the community, worldwide community of street performers, which is a really amazing group of people that I love, and I'm very happy to be a part of that. I got home from that weekend in the Yukon, and I counted up my money, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I flew across country, I had an amazing time with all these awesome people, and I actually got paid really well for it. So after that, I was hooked. That was it for me. I didn't know that I would be doing it 14 years later, but I knew that I was going to continue performing. So I did that. I did that every year throughout university. Each summer, I would work and make money to put myself through school the following year. And by the time I had graduated, I had built up enough work that I was able to go full-time with it. When I got to graduation, I was graduating with high distinction, and I felt really good about that. And I thought about how to go into the career path of astrophysics or astronomy. Really, to do that, I would have had to go back to school for years to get a PhD, and I didn't want to do that. I had been in school my entire life at that point, so I decided, what the hey, I'm going to go and I'm going to immerse myself in this world of performing. I'm going to travel the world and just give that a go. So that's what I did after that. It hasn't always been super easy to do that since then, but after 14 years now, I can honestly say that I'm really happy at where I'm at. I'm successful, I feel successful, and I'm so proud of the path that I've taken for myself. I'm glad that I didn't just do, what my parents expected me to do. I think there's a couple lessons that I can teach you from my experience on stage. After 14 years on stage, one thing I can tell you is that if you're ever in front of a group of people, be it a million people or just one person, the key is confidence. If you come on stage in front of people and you're nervous and awkward, that's going to make the audience just as nervous and awkward as you are. Whether they realize it or not, they're going to pick up on it subconsciously, and they're going to feel that way. So confidence is key. If you come on stage with confidence, people will understand it and respect what you're saying a lot more. The other thing I can say is my experience performing proves that you can do what you love for a living. I do shows, and in my show I talk about how I get to do what I love for a living, and a lot of times people come up to me afterwards and thank me for giving them that message, which seems weird to me because it seems like such an obvious thing to me from where I'm coming from, but a lot of people don't know that, and maybe some of you haven't realized that yet. I hope you'll take that home, that look, you can do what you love for a living. I haven't used my university degree on a daily basis, but I also want to stress that I never regret what I do, my experience going to university. I learned a lot of things. I learned a lot of cool, specific things about science, none of which I remember. I also learned some really important skills such as critical thinking, and this is really important to me, and I'm so glad I learned to use logic and rationality. I think a lot of more people should use it in today. The world would be a better place. I think I'm running out of time, so I'm going to do one more trick. I'm just going to show you a little bit of this whip cracking right here, and the reason this is fun to do for me is because I get to use a bit of my science background to explain what's happening here. Now, when I crack a whip, what's happening is a wave is propagating down the whip, and it behaves very much in the way that a wave rolling into shore behaves. As a wave rolls into the shore, it gets shallower and shallower. The wave moves faster and faster until it crests over. With the whip, this loop travels down the whip, and because the whip gets thinner and thinner, the loop travels faster and faster. By the time it reaches the tip, it is actually traveling faster than the speed of sound, and it breaks the sound barrier and creates a miniature sonic boom. And that is what you hear when the whip cracks. Pretty cool, huh? All right, I know I'm going over time here, but I'm going to do one thing just for fun. I'm going to do a little bit of target cracking. I'm going to hold a target in my own hand and break the target with the whip. This is obviously dangerous as the whip is moving faster than the speed of sound. If I hit myself, it will hurt a lot. If I hit the target and not myself, everyone go nuts. Here we go. All right, guys, I hope you can take something home from my story. I just want to say thanks again for having me here as a speaker today. I've had a great time, and I wish you guys all the best of luck.